Health Channel, iHealth Radio, with your host, Hurricane Age. Today is a unique show, different show, no guest, just me. And as you can see on the screen, it's Health Hospitality. This is our second Health Hospitality show. And basically, it combines the idea of hospitality and health. And, basically, we're looking at health, hygiene, safety, and value in the hospitality world. And of course, this also kind of makes a little bit of a unique show because 2 years ago, just at the onset of the pandemic, I had done a first show. Actually, it was one of the first shows on the actual channel that was about Royal Caribbean and how they managed the onset of the pandemic and whether they did a good job or not. At the time, we went day to day and we report on the activities and how they managed the whole crisis at the time. It was still in the beginning before the lockdown and everything. And of course, the pandemic had impacted the cruise lines big time. The cruise industry was pretty much affected royally, and many other industries, of course. But the hospitality as a whole was a problem. And of course, with the cruises, there's always the risk, and people are leery and not sure whether they want to go on a cruise. Is it safe? And so on and so forth, because it's confined spaces. Well, today we're gonna kind of cover all that, and also I'll share with you guys some of the updates on the cruise and the practices and things like that that happened today. Now, I happen to have been on a cruise a second time, which was basically February 2020, and this was February 2022. So 2 years to the mark, really. And again, it's not about me going on the cruise. It's about doing the actual investigation and just experiencing it, at firsthand. And I have to say, I am a cruise fanatic, so I actually love and enjoy vacationing, on a ship. I just find it a very easy way to vacation. You don't think too much. You just get your luggage, get ready, drop it at the curb, and basically you're on the ship for a few days, and you don't have to worry about a lot of things, and everything is pretty much cooked for you. You just have to pick what you want to do as activities and so on and so forth. But of course, we are on the Health Channel and the Health Radio, so we want to make sure that we always cover the health topic and the health theme. And again, this is a good platform to share with you guys firsthand experiences on what this means to you. Now, if you are a cruise goer and you really love cruising, and you haven't gone back since the pandemic, today is going to be probably a good show for you to actually pay attention to, because I'll share with you what we've experienced, going through this whole process of resuming cruising. So that being said, again, today is unique. And the first thing, we've obviously booked the cruise. We coincided, and literally the timing was coinciding the actual anniversary of the first one. So 2 years to the mark. And so the first thing you book, obviously they give you all kind of emails about, the requirements on the pandemic and so on and so forth. So first thing first, prior actually to us booking, we've been hesitant, to actually get on the ship or even book one because no vaccination was a big question. In the beginning, when they resumed, cruising, sometimes in the summer of last year, people were not sure. There was some debates. We've seen some shows on people having issues on the ship, with no vaccination. And there were a report of people not feeling comfortable being not, vaccinated, and they were kind of treated a little bit different than the ones that were vaccinated. And of course, the dilemma of vaccination was a big deal. And so again, hopefully today I will remove some of those clouds and basically give you a crisp and crystal, very lucid idea of what is and what is not on this particular adventure that we took on. So first things, again, we booked the ship, we booked the dates, we booked the actual itinerary, everything was good. The condition was, to have a vaccination. At least that's how it stated it initially. So we were under the impression that only people with vaccinations would be able to sail. Later on, we found out that is not the case, and I'll talk about it, shortly in the rest of this episode. So first thing, again, we book. They give you confirmation, they send you the stuff, and they give you different dates to do certain functions or certain activities prior to the embarkation and the sailing date. So the first thing, they send you to fill out a survey. And basically about your health condition, blah, 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 vaccinated or not vaccinated, what kind of all this, when was the last time you've, taken the last dose of vaccine. So they actually document that, and you submit all that online. And then 2 days, 3 days before the actual cruise, they do another email with some more information required and that you have to put in. And then, of course, you have to do a PCR test, although you're vaccinated. You do have to take a test, which basically you can do rapid or a regular PCR. It doesn't matter. They do have they do request actually and require documentation of such when you go to the ship. As a matter of fact, you have to upload it as soon as possible so it goes into the system. And then of course when you go there, you show your vaccination card and your PCR testing documentation that it's not detected, and that's it. So the good news is everybody pretty much that was on the ship was 100% PCR, negative. No one could possibly have had, a positive outcome, and be on that ship because they double check it left and right. So the day of the embarkation or the sailing, you have to go early. So based on the CDC requirements and the way they actually do things now is a little different from prior days. Prior, I guess, like before Corona, BC. So what they do now is they give you. I mean, of course, it's always been like that in a way. They always have like boarding times, but this time they actually is specific, to the time. So they tell you exactly what time you have to be there, and you have a window, and only those groups that are assigned that particular time can actually get into the port and then go right into the ship once they get through the process of embarkation. So you get to the ship. Of course, we sailed out of Bayonne, New Jersey, so the process there is simple. We've been there before. You just get your luggage stuff, you drop it, you park at the garage, and then you walk out. The first thing we noticed is that they had actually COVID testing right outside of the port. So if someone wanted to do a last minute, PCR or rapid test, they can do it right there. And then they call in your time slot. So if we were supposed to be in at 11, so 11 o'clock, the people that were scheduled for 11 lined up, and you have to have a mask. So they mandate the mask once you get close to the terminal, and everybody has to keep their masks on. And you walk in, you go through security. The lines were not that crazy. I mean, it pretty much was similar to prior sailings that we've had. The difference, like I said, is just that they have to check in the people on their timing, as well as they have to have the mask on, and they have people walking around checking in and stuff. If you don't have it, they kind of frown upon it, and they ask you to put your mask on. And then ultimately you go through security, and as you pass through security, you'll see some footage right now. You'll see a station also for testing inside the terminal. So someone, especially for kids. Now, the people that are not vaccinated, they have the ability to go in. And I think the ratio was 95% of people on the ship must have been, with a vaccine, and they will allow for 5% exempt folks to be also on the ship. And of course, they have to provide documentation of appropriate, exemptions, religious exemptions, health exemptions, and or medical ones, and of course, children that are not able to have any vaccination yet, 5 years or younger, and even older children that may not have been vaccinated yet. So they have the ability to actually test on the spot with their families, and then basically you go through security, then you get into a checkpoint, and you have a cruise employee, staff member who comes in. They check your credentials, they check your vaccine card, they check your what do you call it, pre-boarding, information system, and then basically they confirm all the stuff, the testing documents and everything. And once you do that, they give you a little bit of a wristband. So for those that may be wondering, well, how would you know who's vaccinated, who's not, who's exempt, who's not? Well, they do give these tags, that you put around like your arm, and basically those are the ones that are vaccinated. So you walk around the ship with this thing, and people know that you're vaccinated. So it'll be easier to kind of detect these people, or at least identify them. And then, of course, if you didn't have it, that means that you have an exemption or you're a child, and so they have that particular way of differentiating the two parties. And once you go now, of course, I have my opinion about that. I mean, in essence, if the percentage or the majority of the ship was vaccinated, I mean, I would have, potentially requested, or at least, as an operation procedure, I would have made it the opposite. So the ones that didn't have the actual vaccination would have those tags, or I wouldn't even want them to have wristbands. I would put it on their cards, maybe a different color card, or maybe just like when you go and get some services within, the cruise ship, they give you stickers and things on your card, and also on your profile. Basically, everywhere you scan, you tap your card, and basically they can see that you're vaccinated or not. And we'll talk about that shortly as we get into the ship. So basically, that was the first part of the process. And so from booking to arriving at the terminal to processing through security and through check-in, and then once they clear you and you check, you don't have to wait anywhere. You just walk right through, because before you would finish your onboarding process or embarkation process and sit until they call your timing to get on the ship. Now you just basically, once you finish, you go right in. So there's no crowd, then there's no waiting time. It's just like 1, 2, 3, you come in, you move. So they made it very easy access in a way, and it's even better, I think, than before. Once you get through the ramp and you basically in the ship, you can roam freely. There's nothing. Now, you do have to maintain your mask everywhere that is enclosed or indoor. So all the venues that are basically indoors, you have to keep your mask on. Eventually, if you go to certain venues, or especially the open air, such as by the pool decks and things like that, you don't have to have any more your mask on. You can remove it. But once you get into a restaurant, or you get into any facility within the ship, or going through the hallways to the rooms, you do need to keep your mask on. And so now there are, certain things that you have to be aware of. So as you get to the ship, your card now is actually not just a regular card. It has actually a chip, and basically everywhere you go, you tap your card, so you don't even touch anything. You put your card on these magnetic things, scanners, and basically it reads, who you are, where you are, so on, so for your room. And whether you purchase something or whatever, that's all you do. There's no handing, cards back and forth. Even when you go to check in venues, they just have these little tablets. You just tab it, and then you get, they can see who you are, and then whether you have your vaccination, whatever, all that stuff is in there. All the information is on your profile. Also, they use those same forms and the system to actually check you into different activities, because they try to limit the number of people per activity and time slots, so they have multiple shows and things like that to accommodate everyone on the ship. So, and during the course, you can possibly have different, shows, and you don't have to crowd, anywhere, and have multiple, more people in one place. So basically, they kind of separate a little bit the crowds by doing this particular, taking these measures. Similarly, when you go to eat in the restaurants, and I'm talking about the buffet area, that's usually used to be a common place where people go in, just grab food and do the thing. Right now, they've changed that, so the buffet is still there. You go in, no problem, but you do not touch, you do not serve yourself. They have people, plenty of staff, to serve you whatever you want. So you go through stations, you like salads, food, hot, cold, whatever, sandwich, you name it, pizza. You just point at what you want, they'll give it to you, and you can go as many flights as you want. So same thing as a regular buffet, but you just basically being served as opposed to you helping yourself. And the other thing on these particular restaurants is they do have, like, you come in from one side, you come out the other one, so there's no, facing each other. There's no clutters. They try to avoid as much, where there's too much traffic, where people are in one place. And then when you sit at those tables, basically have alternate tables. So one is empty, one is, available. And when it's available and someone, walks out of the table and it clears for the next guest to come on, you don't sit. They have these stickers on, these little tags, and they have to clean it first, and it shows basically clean, ready to, unavailable or unavailable. So when you approach a table, if it's not ready, you don't sit until they actually clean, and they have people dedicated to just walk around and make sure they wipe everything for you. They clean it, super clean and ready for you, sanitized. You don't have to worry about it, and you sit comfortably. Also, when you get into any venue, doesn't matter, you have hand sanitizer, stations everywhere. So you basically can get a pump. Sometimes they don't have, physical standing sanitation zones, but you actually have people literally with, hand sanitizers available to you. They also have masks. If you drop your mask, you break your mask, any of the venues, they can give you also masks. They also leave a couple of masks for you in your stateroom. And the other thing is, so when you walk into the buffet, as soon as you do that and you clear your card and you do your hand sanitizer, they have also a cleaning station or sanitizing station. So they have hot water, soap, and all the stuff. So you go through it before you even get into the buffet area. So basically, you walk in clean, you come out, there's very little chance for you to actually cross contaminate or touch anything else. But of course, there's always room for that. But people could argue that. But the end of the day, it's pretty. They did a terrific job as far as the hygiene piece and the safety and the measures that they took. They're really up there in terms of maintaining and making sure that you have very little or potential of getting any bug or any type of, not just the virus, the corona, any other type of problem, right? So that's that. So again, that's in terms of the food. In terms of the activities, as I said, you book different shows. You come in. If you don't have a reservation, chances are you may not be able to access. But what they recommend, you come in a few minutes before a show begins. And if people didn't show up, and they have a few openings still available or seats available, they can still check you and do this. The one thing that they have is that different venues have different abilities. For example, those that have exemptions versus those that are vaccinated, they have different seating arrangements. So, for example, if you go to the theater, which most of these ships have nice theaters where they play their Broadway shows and the musicals and stuff like that. They normally before back in days everybody goes in whatever you pick a seat and you go balcony or just the main hall. It didn't matter. And today in this particular sailing, the way they do it now after the pandemic is that if you are an exempt and you don't have the vaccination, you do not mix in, within the actual vaccinated crowd. So they have them separated. The top on the balcony will be exempt, no vaccinations, and the bottom will be all vaccinated. And of course, if you're in the vaccinated area, and this happened in the mid of the cruise, they actually had switched it a little bit. And within the last couple of days of the sailing, they actually had it on their compass, which is their new daily newsletter or itinerary of activities. They pretty much, kind of indicated that if you're in a venue that is designated for vaccinated guests, you can actually remove your mask within that particular place. And so basically, if you're in a venue that is purely vaccinated, guests, you know, uh, worthy, basically you will be able to sit without no mask, and so you can just chill normal. Now, ultimately, if you go to a restaurant or any cafeteria on the ship, you sit down. Once you sit on table, you remove your mask and you eat normal, just like we do now in any of the cities around the world. But once you start moving out of your table and you move on or around and about in the ship, you have to actually maintain the masking, which is a little bit annoying. I mean, ultimately, it's not an easy thing, to keep the mask 24/7. I mean, obviously, you do sleep, you do get to your stateroom, but when you're in public, you have to maintain it all the time. I mean, the staff, that's an important piece. I'm going to talk about it in a minute. They cannot remove their mask whatsoever. They keep their masks on 200%. As a matter of fact, prior to our sailing, there were actually a couple of sailings before they had two masks on mandatory. And each and every one of the staff members, they have to have, they could not possibly even be on the ship if they didn't have full vaccination. And they maintain them as the new boosters come out. They make sure that they all get those boosters in. And that's how they've been maintaining the order and safety of the staff and the health of the staff to ensure that they don't have any issues. Also, another thing, they did not allow the staff to actually come out at ports of call. That was something back in the days. When we get to a port of call, the staff also they have an opportunity to go shop around and buy stuff and just decompress a little bit of the ship. During this pandemic, format now, post-pandemic format, the staff did not have an opportunity to leave the actual ship, so therefore they stayed, for months without even stepping foot out of the ship, which from a labor stand, it's a very difficult thing. You don't even get out of the ship. I mean, the ship is large and it's a big place, but still, I mean, eventually, after a while, it gets a little tough. So I felt bad for those guys. I mean, but they do a terrific job in really making the experience very sweet and beautiful and memorable for anyone and all their guests. And again, from this platform, I want to thank everyone on that ship. And they were courteous, they were very pleasing, they were very, accommodating, they were happy, and actually they were very happy also just to be, working because a lot of them had. been completely off work, for a couple of years until all these cruises, regulations have been put in place. So imagine these folks, they relate. That's basically the bread and butter, and they couldn't do anything about it. And so, but again, this is not about only the cruise staff, because industry-wise, in general, all industries have been affected, and employment has been tough for the last 2 years. I mean, we all are aware of this, and now it's getting a little better. But again, for these people, they actually have contracts for like months at a time. So you're talking about 6 to 9 months, contracts where they basically leave their home countries and they be on that ship working day in, day out, doing the same routine over and over. And one thing that, they didn't, at least before, they used to be able to go and shop for their own personal items, articles, whether it's, soap, toothpaste, whatever. It was difficult. So I did ask the question, and what they have apparently is they had some sort of Amazon deal, and they were able to order in things, at the port of calls, and or embarkation and the embarkation days, and they would be getting their stuff, whatever they need as supplies. And some actually guests also bring things for, and they give them to those staff members to make the stay and their comfort, a little bit better. So that was a good thing, in terms of just courtesy. People are good to each other, and that's great to see sometimes. And so that's it. Now, as far as the signage, everywhere you go, I mean, they had clear signage everywhere on the ship. Digital, stuff. They have, posters posted pretty much every other, 10 yards. You will have something that reminds you of a mask, that reminds you of, distance. The elevator banks, they were very, very well, there's a lot of signage there to make sure that you don't have any issues, and that to remind you of taking those precautions. And the one thing that typically on a ship, you could literally stuff up those elevators, up and down. In this particular time, they had the limit of 6 people per, per elevator flight. And or if you are one group, that means you have to be in the same family party in order for you to actually go into an elevator. So if you're going to share it with others, you cannot go more than 6 people, and everybody has to keep their mask on. So again, signage was prominent everywhere, and it was really a good experience. I mean, you feel good, safe. As a matter of fact, I think it was overwhelming because you possibly could not breathe outside of the stuff. So you would spend, little time indoors, and you want to spend as much time outdoors. Now, when we got to the destinations, that was also a cool opportunity. When you walk out of the ship, you maintain your mask. Once you get into the islands or any destinations, and we had the opportunity to go to a couple of islands, you don't actually have to wear a mask. Except if you're going to an excursion bus or something. So if you're on the bus, you have to maintain it. If you're on the upper decks, for example, on double deckers, and it's open air, you might, be able to remove the mask. And that was just optional. Of course, a lot of people kept their mask on, especially if you go into foreign, countries and foreign islands. But then a lot of these islands have also their own measures. So when you go to stores or any businesses, you would not go in without a mask on. And so only if you're in the open air, like outdoors, which would be standard everywhere around the world these days. Now, what we did here, that eventually after we got off the ship and throughout this course of the week now, this new sailing that just left, they had actually lesser, restrictions in terms of the masking, and it became more optional. So I think we're getting closer to the point where masking, and we do know that eventually by mid-March, the federal government has potential ideas of removing those things. Now, of course, we don't know if that's going to be a guarantee or not. It might have an end in sooner than later. Maybe it will be a little longer. But I think there's light at the end of the tunnel. So I think the masking will go away. But I think the measures that have been put in place on the ship, I mean, they're definitely real good measures. Excellent measures of prevention, and I mean, you have to be able to do this. Now, they did have medical facilities on the ship, and they have extra staff in, and they even offered PCR tests for people on the ship if they needed to check. And definitely all the ones with exemptions and or kids without any vaccinations, the day prior to disembarkation, they were called in, all the guests were called in to a particular location where they had to actually take a PCR test before disembarking from the ship. And so that was another thing. So again, They were really ready and had all the preparation, all the measures, all the measures in place to ensure that the sailing was smooth from the embarkation to disembarkation to port of calls, and that you would not experience anything else. I mean, they were cleaning left and right. I mean, that ship was mint, and you will see on the footage right now. It's a pretty clean ship. I mean, there's not even dirt on that thing. I mean, they don't keep. I mean, I think the bugs, the viruses, the bacteria, they didn't want to be on that ship because it's just so much sanitation going on. Is not even funny. I mean, sanitizing the ship was like their priority, and making sure that there's less risk of anybody on that ship to bring in the virus. And again, the actual cruise was 9 days, and we have not heard of any case where someone was even reported to have an illness or anything on that particular ship. And by the way, that's exactly what happened 2 years ago. So when I did the first show and we monitored a little bit the activities, it was just go, no problem. It was they did a great job then, and that was with less measures that they have now. I mean, they had the sanitation, they had the stuff. Of course, at the time the buffet was open, they didn't have all these tagless, or touchless, tags and things like that. But technology helped as well in the process, so things have become a lot more smoother. And of course, there are other activities like like the spa, the thermal suites, and things like that. They maintain them clean. You couldn't even possibly have opportunity to bring in anything to those places. Courts everywhere. If you did sports, you have to maintain your mask on. Whatever there's crowds, you had to maintain mask on. Except like I said, where it's vaccinated guests only, then you have anywhere where there's a potential of mixing with crowds with exemptions and non or vaccine, you would have to actually keep your mask on. So that was just the key rule across the ship. The one thing that we also noticed that in most of the sailings, and I've been cruising for many years now, and I enjoy, as I said, the vacation, the cruise time, and one thing that we've always had the pleasure of experiencing is having a discussion with the captain, and especially in the formal nights. But in this particular sailing, we noticed that the senior, officers of the ship were not really available to mingle with people. Now, I can see that that is a priority one, because I mean, obviously, you don't want a captain with quarantine. So I think that's a great measure where the senior staff of or senior officers of the ship would be a little bit more isolated, so they are protected in terms of any potential risk that can happen. Of course, in any vacation mode anywhere, there's always a risk of having a pandemic issue, and especially in these times. And even before the pandemic, I mean, there's always every now and then you get a little bit of flu, and then you have quarantine, so on and so forth. So I've actually experienced something like that a few years back. We were on a ship, and during the mid period of that sailing, there were a couple of staff members that came up with a flu, and they were isolated. And then from that point on, they actually had stopped the buffet, and they started serving. They had the one option, you walking from one area to the other. So those measures are not really that new to them. They were in place all along as a backup, as a fail-safe systems, in case this particular particular scenario happens. But it was just a fun opportunity. So for anyone that is fearful, not sure, not secure, not ready yet. Again, I mean, that was my experience. I'm sharing it with you, and I'm sharing with you what's been in place. Of course, you have to be convinced that this is the right way for you to vacation. I still think that it's nothing any different from being in a resort or in a hotel or going on a plane or a train or anything. I mean, there's that risk everywhere. And so at the end of the day, it's, life must go on. And if you really enjoy cruising and enjoying vacation, I felt that it was very safe. Hygiene was there, safety was there, health was there, and even value was there. I mean, the price is a little bit higher, that prior to the pandemic, but we understand that ultimately, there was a lot of loss of financial, profitability over the last 2 years for these industries that were shut down, and but there's still good deals going on, and they were a little bit more aggressive in terms of the pushing some of the services and beverages and things like that, and they just try to sell more. But that's not new to the industry. I mean, they always try to. I mean, they have a lot of activities in there that you can buy, and of course, there's a lot of stuff that's already included in your trip and your package. But you have options to buy stuff you want more, and they did a little bit, just a little bit, maybe I would say 10% more than what they did before, and that's it. But overall, the staffing, they were very, very happy. They were very grateful to be back. They were working hard and really, helping people to have a great experience and taking good memories with them back. And so that being said, I think that, my judgment, my assessment would be on the scale of 1 to 10. I would give them a 10. I mean, they did their job. I don't think they can do anything more that they did, and even they did a little bit more than they should, I think. But that's me. But at the end of the day, it is a go concept for me. So this is definitely a thumbs up, and go for it. If you really want to be in the ship, you can, and now it's the right time. It's just a fun place to be. Good times, very relaxing. You can do everything that you want on the ship. If you like to watch good art, good musicals, good Broadway shows, they actually bring to you. Comedy, you name it, jugglers, worldwide renowned, performers are out there. Great, music, venues. They have so many, so many, so many talented shows, and talented bands actually playing different things and programming. There's movies, there's activities. I mean, this particular ship, Anthem of the Seas, they had even bumper cars. They have, a lot of different things that you can really enjoy. Great food. And actually, food wise, I mean, I think that was the other thing. I mean, restaurants, uh, besides the buffet or the main dining, and they were doing terrific. Yeah, they have also specialty dining that was also great. And like I said, the hygiene, the safety, and the measures were there everywhere. You could not possibly touch anything that would have anything dust, specks of dust on it. So it was just perfect. So again, that's, and then when we went to the islands, even the food, I mean, the way they took the food from the ship, for like in the private islands, they actually bring the food out of the ship so people can enjoy while they're actually on the island. For those people that have never been on a cruise, this stuff sounds a little weird, but yes, I mean, there's a lot of cool things that happen. And as you can see, some of the footage that's covered right now, you will see exactly what I'm talking about. But it's pretty good stuff. I mean, the ship is just a walk, literally a floating town with everything. I mean, it's a hotel, but it's pretty much more than a hotel. There's a mall in there. There's stores. There's anything. There's it's just a big facility. It's a big piece of equipment that's moving on the sea, and it's got a lot of different moving parts, a lot of stuff. And I mean, the ship was this particular ship could actually carry more than 4,000 passengers, and I think we were only at 2,200 passengers, so it was actually less. It was maybe like 60% capacity of the normal. Now I'm not sure if that was by design or that was just that how many people actually are on ship because people are still leery about going on the ship. But just this last week, I mean, the largest ship in the world has started sailing, and it's actually, I think it was in Cape Canaveral in Florida, and that's the Wonder of the Seas, and that's really a wonder of the seas. I mean, the thing is just it's supposed to have 10,000, 8,000 people plus staff. I mean, you're talking about 10,000 lives, floating on that thing, with multiple levels of activities and parks and so on and so forth. I mean, it's just phenomenal. These things are crazy. But again, that's my enthusiasm about cruising. So, but I can tell you, you guys, if you haven't been on one, you're missing it. You can start, with a smaller, itinerary. That's how I did it the first time. I took a 5 days cruise just to fill it out. And believe me, on the day five, it was like nostalgic. I mean, like I didn't want to leave that ship. And from that point on, I mean, it's just history. We've been going. I mean, the last years was almost, painful because we could not be on the ship for, just there was no ships. And then at the end, when they started, we were still, debating yes, no vaccine, no vaccine, all this stuff going on the ship, safe, not safe. But again, from a personal experience, we had fun. From a health experience, from a channel experience, from a production experience, I had enjoyed actually, going and experiencing this and talking to people and seeing what's been in place. And like I said, it was just a very smooth operation. It was a very smooth sailing. Literally, we had a great time and look forward to the next one. So, again, Uh, if you really enjoy it, if you haven't been into it, maybe it's something to look into it. So have fun, enjoy. And that being said, that's about it for me. I think that covers it all for this particular episode of Health Hospitality. And like I said, at the end of the day, it's two thumbs up, score 10, and yes, go. And that's about it. We'll be talking soon, different show, and this time with multiple guests and different topics, of course. We'll talk soon. Bye for now.